So if you can picture like plate glass window, gym's behind me, right? I have some seating in the front area, kind of like a lounge area, and above the windows there's a TV there, so I click the TV on and kind of watch the news and, you know, get an idea of what was going on. I put one of the pistols on the table, on the coffee table, right there in the front window, and I just sat there and watched and made eye contact with every, I'm just going to say any dirtbag, you know, that's walking by acting a fool. I mean, there were other people out there that, let's just say, were quote unquote peaceful protesting, but there were plenty of dudes that weren't, and I just couldn't. I sat there and just wanted to be a deterrent, and it dawned on me very quickly while I was there, like, what the fuck am I doing here? Yeah, you guys, how's that?
Oh, that's good.
That better? Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't anticipate any of that stuff. You guys, this should be fun. I love what you guys do and how you guys handle yourselves.
Thank you.
This should be fun.
And y'all met at California Range Day, right?
Correct.
Yep. Y'all did a little.
Well, it was a brief interview. I had planned to cut some content and try to put it together. Like with some of the stuff that was going on with CRW, and the plan was to really use that for like next year to tease the next event.
Oh, yeah.
Some things are happening with that event, and I'm not quite sure how that's going to go down this year. So we didn't actually put it out. I didn't put the time into that part of it. But yeah, that's where we met Ike and his wife, and
I think Ian was out there.
Ian.
Yeah.
Ian was there. Ian was there.
Yeah, and camera guy. We're not.
Yeah.
We still can't tell you.
Yeah,
we don't say his name.
We don't talk about camera guy.
Yeah, we just refer to him as camera guy.
We just started calling. We started referring to him as camera guy, and then we realized, like, hey, he has a name. We could probably call him by his name, but it's too far in, so we just call him camera guy.
Yeah, we're too far in. I even
That's great.
Everybody at Big Tex is a packer. That's one of the things. Like, everybody can pack packages. I can pack. Everybody can pack. Yep. And so we implemented some new changes to where we're using more electronic stuff in the packing process, and you have to log into it. Mm-hmm. And so went to log in, and he's like, "What's my login?" And I was like, "It's camera guy." He's like, "Seriously?" I was like, "Dude, I
don't make the rules.
I don't make the rules. You've got to make it through that year period before we actually start calling you by
totally
by
appreciate
your name.
that. Yeah, that's good. It sounds like a good time.
Like, we didn't bring him here. He's obviously not needed that much.
It's funny. He's gonna be watching this, and he's gonna
be like, "What?
As he
like,
goes
you guys
to
went
edit.
without me? Like, what's going on?"
Yeah. Like, hey, can you edit this for me?
Yeah, hey, camera guy.
Yeah, but anyway, dude, thanks for your time today.
I'm happy to be here. I'm so honored to be here with you guys. I love what you guys are doing. I love Big Tex, and I'm always down to have good conversations with good dudes. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we're here at TTPOA 2024. We're sitting down here, day one of the vendor show, I guess. They had range day yesterday and day one of vendors. So we got Scott here. Sit down talking to him. We got Chris. I'm Ike. Ian is not here right now. He's downstairs working the booth.
Staying busy.
He's got to actually do some work.
Yeah, it's busy down there.
Yeah, but dude, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm really impressed, and it's a different kind of feel. Yeah, it's real busy down there.
Is this your first
TTPOA?
Yeah, it's gotten bigger every year. So like last year was pretty dang big, and I'm surprised that they made it even bigger.
You know, I was asking a lot of questions about that, just kind of how they're doing that and how they're growing it. I think it's turning into a little bit more of a business than, you know, just kind of a show, if you will, where people kind of show up. And I would anticipate it getting much bigger in terms of the organizational structure. I think they've done quite a bit from what I've been told. Again, my first time. But so far, I'm impressed. It's really smooth down there, and a lot of good conversations. Also, I like the fact that it's like big enough for people to actually get through it and get and talk and have conversations with people without being 10 people deep at a table,
it's nice,
which is like important for you guys for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The only time it gets crazy down there is when they start doing the glass breaking demos.
Yeah.
And then it gets loud.
What does that happen? Right?
They're scheduled. You'll hear it and you're like, what the heck?
There's like this one booth that like has like they do glass breaking demos, and the first time you hear it, you're like, what the fuck was that? And you're looking around, and then like it happens again like an hour later.
I haven't seen any of that. One of the things that really tripped me out, actually, like in a creepy way, are those mechanical dogs. Like those robot dogs.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude walked it right over to me. It has like an arm and a hand on it, you know, or whatever, with an articulating arm. He handed me some patches. I got the whole thing on video, and I sent it to Cece. And she's like, that is creepy.
Yeah, I'm good with
the
that.
thing will roll over Like it's wild. Like that kind of tripped me out. But I'll have to stand by for the glass breaking. It sounds
I've seen how they treat those Boston Dynamic dogs
Yeah.
where they're all kicking them and knocking them over and hitting them with sticks. Those things you're going to remember one day. Right? That's why I still got a
telling
bunch
you,
of.
it's creepy.
That's why I still got a bunch of 855 stashed at the house just in case you need to still penetrator on there. But yeah, dude. Once again, thanks. You're here with.
So I'm out here with Jake Labhart, and Jake Labhart is the owner of In Extremis Performance, and he and I have been, behind the scenes, been working on some projects together that I am very, very excited about, and so I'm down here hanging out with Jake, who is on the board for the TTPOA. And so I'm hanging out with Jake and his team of instructors that are going to be instructing some classes here this weekend, specifically on Saturday and Sunday. So they'll be out there on the range doing the things they do. And that whole company has really been the way we got connected was through the podcast, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But he comes from the world of human performance, and he's really made a name for himself, kind of bridging the human performance, the moving with the shooting, which are two different things. When you break them down fundamentally, but when put together and you have solid fundamentals and a solid understanding of how to increase performance on both ends, he's really been impressing some people, including myself and a lot of other people, and I think there's some opportunity there. So we've been chatting quite a bit, and that's what we're here doing this weekend. Is I'm just kind of getting a feel for what he's doing and maybe making some connections with some people to do our stuff. So that's what that's about.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then I ran into you last night at the bar. We'll call it Circle Bar, Texas.
Yeah,
it's Circle
that's
Bar,
what it is.
Texas.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I ran into you. I was like, "Hey, are you doing podcasts?" And you're like, "No." I was like, "Can you do ours?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Well, yeah, sure." So
I'm honored to be here. Of course,
cool.
Like any invite from you guys, I'm down anytime.
And
So speaking of the podcast, when did you start that? How many episodes are you up to now?
Oh man, so I came ill prepared. So I think we are like right around. We're over. I think we're over we're at 220 or something like that all in. Yeah.
Nice.
I started that thing back in 2021, and it kind of really started to take off in 22 when we started to bring more of like the Second Amendment stuff, the preparedness shooting, combative stuff into the game, which was kind of part of my journey, and I was just sharing it. But it had started specifically with health and wellness and fitness, and that's the world I come from. I've been in the fitness business for over 25 years, specifically like on the personal training, human performance, strength and conditioning side. And I live in California. 2020 came rolling through.
Yeah.
The gym was shut down, along with many, many other businesses, which to some people listening to this will be like, that's ridiculous. I agree, totally ridiculous. You could have done something different. Trust me, we did everything we possibly could.
Yeah.
And we were really challenged. My business was closed for a year. Like by order, your business will be closed. We were still trying to operate and do stuff, and I needed, my business is closed. I don't have people coming. That's bad right off the bat, right? So we started to put together some online products and programs like many other people did, and because I had nothing.
Yeah.
It was just a huge pivot. Right, just trying to figure that out, and then I needed to then market that. Podcasting was something that had kind of been in the back of my head. People trying to encourage me to do, but I had nothing but time at that point.
Yeah, unfortunately, you weren't doing anything else.
And so I started the podcast to try and spread the word about our brand, and then it evolved kind of to what it is now. So it's half health and wellness and fitness, and then the other half, we drop 2 episodes a week. The other half is more specifically related to kind of all things training, preparedness, self-reliance, and all the things that encompasses, which is certainly a lot of what you guys do. And working with and supplying armed citizens as well as law enforcement with stuff. I'm just trying to provide them with information too, and not just on the health and wellness side, like bringing cool conversations with interesting people that are doing cool things in the space, which is very large, and trying to spread that message. And largely because I was challenged to find the good messaging when I started, kind of in this end of things. And I was spending 25 years in the fitness business and all the friggin' messed up information that exists and continues to be perpetuated there. Like, I saw some similarities, and I thought, hey, man, I might be able to do this.
Yeah, like you think the gun industry is bad with bad information. I can't imagine how the fitness is.
It's terrible.
Like, it's like there's got to be so much crap out there.
I mean, it's awful. I mean, anybody that's spent any time there knows that. But at the same time, awful comes with good. There's more good information than there is awful information. It's just like what ends up being projecting what you see the most of. But yeah, I mean, if you had to draw some parallels, like the fitness business, firearms business, like it's just weird. But then, you know, you start going like the modern medical industrial complex, pharmaceutical complex, you know, and those intertwine. But take the firearms piece out when you go fitness, health, fitness, because those are kind of two different things. And then there's all the subcategories like supplements, nutrition, you know, like it gets wild, right? And then that's totally intertwined with medical and pharmaceutical stuff at the end of the day. It's messed up. It's really messed up. But I've learned a lot about it, or a lot from it. So when I kind of started talking about, you know, these other things, you know, that I was interested in, I recognized where people were getting lost and the rabbit holes they could dive themselves into. And I also recognize that there were people out there in the firearms space, if you will, that's training, equipment, you know, firearms themselves or whatever. It's the same type of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you cut through all that garbage and kind of give them the truth or the solid messages? And that just started with talking with people like you guys. And it's like, I wonder if other people would be interested in listening to these conversations, because I'm extracting a ton of value from this.
Yeah.
And there are good people providing a good message. So the rest is history.
That's how this got started. You know, I think there was Steve Fisher came by the shop one day, and we just talked in the back in the warehouse for like
Steve.
an hour and a half, just like bullshitting. And then Chris was like, "Man, we should. This would be really cool to have.
If we just hit the record button."
Yeah.
Like I enjoyed the conversation for an hour and a half with Steve. I enjoyed it. I love Steve to death. You know, every time I see him, cool talking, hanging out. But we didn't accomplish anything when we
Beyond
need
that.
to be. Every minute that I'm working needs to be doing something.
Yep.
And yeah, we were building a relationship, hanging out with our friends. And then I got done. I was like, man, Steve just gave us a ton of information.
I bet other people would like it
cool
too.
Story. And then like the next day, I'm like, hey, Ike, look what I got in my cart. And you're like, can you slim that down a little bit?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we can slim that down a little bit. And we started with a GoPro, my cell phone, and one camera. Yeah. And then after doing that for like 3 or 4 episodes, proof of concept, I was like, hey, dude, I can't edit these.
We need to step this up.
We got to do something different.
Yeah.
But one question I've got for you, did you start off as the Iron Sights podcast?
So I started off as Red Dot Fitness, and that's the gym. So the gym is personalized health and fitness services. So you name it, we sort of do it. If somebody comes in and wants to get fit or wants to get healthier or just wants to look, feel, and sort of perform better, if you will, like we have a team of people that do that, or that work with those people to do that. So everybody's employees. These are like professional coaches that make a living doing that. They're not a bunch of hobbyists. Some of them are current students. That's part of the business and so forth. But it started there, and I've been prior to that. You know, prior to owning my own business, Red Dot, which my partner in life and partner in crime, Cece, is obviously a huge part of. Prior to that, I worked in the fitness world too, kind of commercial and corporate fitness stuff, and so that's where that started. So it was Red Dot Fitness, and then Iron Sights was sort of just a spin-off of that once the podcast started.
So how did you get the name Red Dot Fitness? Where did that come about?
So this goes way back. So again, long history in the business, but also just in the genre. So I was doing a lot of multi-sport training at one point. So like triathlon was a thing for me for a while. Like I was into bodybuilding and powerlifting heavy, and then I made a complete switch.
I was gonna say those are like
it's totally different. The way that happened was like I got into a certain point where I was like, if I want to be competitive, I have to reach a certain weight. I was working towards that weight. I got married at the time. This was a previous life. I'm out hiking. We're actually at the Grand Canyon. I'm like 265 pounds, and at that point, strong as an ox and, you know, putting on a ton of weight, dude, we only went out like a mile and a half and I was dying. Knees are hurting, you know, like I'm like, dude, this sucks. Like, what is wrong with me? And then, you know, it just kind of dawned on me, like, I'm carrying too much weight. Like, my body is being challenged just to do the things that I love to do. And so anyways, I was like, I'm done. So I immediately switched gears and like spent the next like 4 or 5 years kind of taking muscle off my body to be able to do this stuff. But the question is like, where did it come from? So I'm training with this multi-sport group who had asked me to be a coach, like kind of with them. And we were training all these people, and it was a very big community of people. And it got to a point where we had to go to like a local park, and we had this box van, and it was full of spin bikes. And, you know, and then they would bring out some weights and stuff, but it was next to a pool, like a public pool. So we'd go through all these workouts. It was like a full day. We'd be out there, and we'd do this like once a month. And so whenever we all had kind of stations that we would handle, and there was this one guy in one of these groups that was like, dude, he goes, you need to relax. Like, it's super intense. He's like, every time I come to your section or your session, I feel like I have a red dot on my forehead, like the laser. He was previous military. And so nobody else really got that, but I did. He's like you're trying to kill me every time. And the whole class got a chuckle out of it. I kind of got a chuckle out of it, and it kind of stuck with me. I was like, well, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing in a sense. Like, I want you to be that focused, and I want to be that focused. And that might sound a little cheesy to people, but that was the thing. It was like, whenever you're doing this thing that you're doing, you know, there should be an unwavering focus on what it is that you should be doing during that time. Once this is done, go do whatever. And you should have that same relationship. The coach should have that relationship with the client. The client should have the relationship with the coach within reason. But it kind of stuck. And I kind of thought, at the time I was working for somebody else, I was like, that might be a cool name for the business.
Yeah.
And this is before.
Yeah.
This is before people. Yeah. The red dots people know now, or it just wasn't the same then. I mean, we're going back to you had ACOGs. I think that's what people had. I mean, this was back in 2006 or 7.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going way back. So anyway, that's where it started, and so then it stuck. And then the Iron Sights thing was just a play on that.
Yeah, you got a little spin-off.
Yeah, just old school meets new school, because that's kind of how I approach fitness. Like, there's a lot of fundamental old stuff that's never going to change. We've constantly figured out a way. People are constantly trying to figure out ways to change that, and they ultimately mess it up. And then there's technology that comes in, and there's new things that we learn, or nuance to the things that make it better. And so some of that is like being open to new things, and exploring those things and experimenting with those things to find out if they work or they don't work, or maybe they work for you but they don't work for somebody else, kind of thing. So that's how that came up.
Yeah, I found you. I think YouTube suggested it from just posting our podcast, and then I started watching yours because I liked your camera work and your lighting, and your After Dark. Are you still doing the After Darks?
Yeah, so those are the Friday episodes that deal with us dudes.
Yeah. And so like I saw that, I started watching it for the editing, and I was like, started listening to it, and I was like, okay, cool. And I followed you on Instagram, and I think you messaged me back on Instagram, or you messaged me like, thanks for the follow, love you guys. And I'm like, what do you mean love you guys? You don't know who I am. And they're like, I've ordered from you. And I'm like, okay, that's just a cool little ecosystem there. And then talked to you at SHOT Show, actually in person for the first time this year. Mm-hmm. And it was just cool to see, you know, you were at SHOT last year recording, and we were at SHOT recording, and almost like one dude left your podcast and came to do our podcast. And it was cool to see how those meshed, but how you know, I've went and watched some of the fitness ones. I know it doesn't look like it, but I'm interested in it, and I need to get back to where I was at one point in time. But then you've got so much knowledge on that side, especially Cece, right? Mm-hmm. She's in there.
She's
just dropping knowledge, and like watching stuff on like fueled workout as opposed to like starved workout, or whatever the proper terminology for that is. And I'm like, man, for 20 years I haven't ate before. I'm like, okay, what is it like if I eat before a run? Mm-hmm. Like what happens? Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh well, it's a lot better. Like I feel a lot better afterwards. But the information y'all do is really good on there, man.
That's I really appreciate that. I think we were talking about this maybe a little bit last night, or maybe it was today when I saw you briefly before here, but it's really tough to get feedback, on that stuff. Like how much of what you put out really reaches people unless you have those conversations. And so like when people give me their time, or they message me, or they see me, or I see them, or whatever, I do my best to try and give them feedback and thank them, for the time that they give, because like you can see a download, you can see a follow, you can see all that stuff. But it goes back to the relationship building. And that is really how Iron Sights got to where it is, was the relationship building piece. So I don't want to get too far on a tangent here, but going back to the fitness piece, that's really what kind of triggered some things for me in terms of what I could bring to this culture or this community that exists. When I kind of transitioned into, talking about this during the 2020 to 22 time periods, a lot of weird shit was happening, right? We were all dealing with it, but living in California, I was dealing with it a little different level. And I started training, and that's how I needed equipment. That's how I found out about Big Tex ultimately, right? And I started ordering from you guys. But the point of that was I was going out to the range, or I was going out to training sessions, or whether it was at the range or doing something, medical related, or, whatever, homestead type stuff, whatever it happened to be. I was running into people, invariably, and you guys know how this is, like if you go anywhere and people find out that you work for Big Tex, or you are Big Tex, that's where the conversation is going every time. So when they find out, like, oh, you're a gym owner, you've been in the training game for a while, that's where the conversation goes. Yep. And to your point, like, I was watching people consume products, or buy things, or buy into things, or just ask questions about stuff. I'm like, man, it's just really kind of weird where the disconnect lies. And I feel like, okay, maybe I can provide some type of help from the health, fitness, nutrition side of things to this group of people who are more like-minded, than a lot of the clients that we have in our gym, to me, that I find sometimes difficult to have conversations with, even in kind of where I live. Like, I'm an alien there. Like, if I show up, so I have a 12-year-old stepdaughter. If I show up to a school event, like, just showing up, like, I'm just a different dude than most people in the Silicon Valley. Yeah. Right? And anybody listening to this that lives there will be like, yeah, I feel you, bro. Yeah. Like having conversations, this is, again, a little bit of a tangent, but having a conversation, like stuff that they're talking about, like, I just can't relate to, and I don't want to, kind of thing. So I would go out to the thing, and like, it's not that I don't want to help that clientele. That is not what I'm saying. So any of my clients that are listening to this, like, or members, like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if you know me, and you know where that could be a challenge. So if I was going out and people were asking me, like, I was like, hey man, I can really help these guys. And I like hanging, I would have a beer with these dudes too, so that's kind of what inspired me to get a little bit more involved, and then ultimately look for a way to give back to the community that I was getting so much from, which has been the journey, which has been the whole thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I picked this off of Ike, though. Like, whenever I go to like an event or anything that, like, I don't know, like go with my wife to something, right, where I don't know, it's not my crowd, right? I asked him one time, I was like, what do you tell people, man? Like, because I don't want to sit there and talk about Big Tex. Yeah. I don't want everybody to know I'm the gun guy in the crowd, because I'm going to answer stupid fucking questions.
All day.
Everyone's like, oh,
yeah,
I used to have a Ruger 1020, or like,
cool, bro.
Like, man, that's awesome, dude. I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't want to talk about it. There's a reason
which is
I
cool.
don't.
Like, I mean, like, that's they want to talk about it, but it's like, man, like,
So we're like, tell people.
It kind of changes lately. The go-to has been like we either flashlights. We sell flashlights in medical gear, or logistics.
That's the story.
Yeah, flashlights.
People are like, oh, flashlight. Okay, cool.
Boring.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't even go there.
But every once in a while, somebody be like, "What type of flashlight?" I'd be like, "Really bright
expensive.
flashlights,
Yeah,
really
super bright
$300 flashlights." And they're like,
wait,
what do you use a 300? Oh,
here we go.
Yeah. Or every once in a while, somebody will be like, aren't you so-and-so? Like, yeah. Or who you work for? Or my kid's like, oh, daddy sells guns. Oh, come on. Flashlights.
Yeah, the kids are always like, mommy works on guns.
Yeah.
I have the fitness cover. I can always go to, like, so sometimes people introduce me as, oh, he's got this podcast, right? What's the podcast about? And it's complicated. It's complex for somebody who doesn't get, play in either of those worlds. But I always have the fitness cover. Oh, we own it, gym owners, we just start there. And then, what kind of gym is it? Is it like a CrossFit gym, or is it? You got to go down that path. But the questions that it's ultimately like, how far is this going to go?
Yeah.
And then they ask you a question. Like, I don't know if you guys run into this. Like, they ask you more of like a technical question, which obviously has many layers to it, where you have to then qualify. All right, before I answer this question, I have to ask them about 10 more questions to find out what level of knowledge they have on whatever it is they're asking you, whether it's a firearm or some type of piece of equipment. It's the same in fitness. So, so I heard about fasted cardio, which is kind of fasted versus fed cardio, which I think is what you're alluding to before. I'm like, dude, you want to go there with me? Like, I will corner you in the corner of this kitchen, right, in somebody's house party or whatever, and I will bore the hell out of you just so you leave me alone, kind of thing. But it's interesting. I feel you. Like, it's work all the time. It's really hard to avoid that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And here, it's like, the nice part about it is like, I've had work conversations, but I'll see dudes that I haven't seen in a while, and it's like, how's your family? How's your kids? How's Johnny? We talk about totally different stuff, and not about this, because it's the community that we're in, and nobody wants to talk about
work.
Yeah.
Outside of whatever happens, that very specific thing, with business that they may be
need to know.
They may need to know, and that you need to get handled with them. That was one of the most rewarding parts about my entry into the space. It was also the most frustrating part at the beginning, and trying to strike up interesting conversations. And really, I was just trying to learn. I was very curious, but I was also trying to learn practically. And that started with like the instruction piece. The equipment piece was very overwhelming. Like, there's just so much of it, right? And like, what's the right thing for this? And, is this the cool stuff, or is it not the cool stuff? Like, I don't want to look like an idiot. There's that piece too. And again, I could relate back to fitness a little bit. So I knew how to ask the right questions, at least seemingly I did. And I feel pretty confident that I was asking the right questions. It was the experiences I was having in the question asking and the answer getting that was creating just more curiosity about, like, this is kind of a funky culture. Like, this is interesting. But to your point, like how we got connected, right? Just ultimately in person, that came from personal recommendations from someone. I can tell you exactly who it was. Joe Dawson's the guy who said I should talk to you guys.
Oh yeah.
And
we're gonna be hanging out with Joe, and
I'll see Joe on Thursday.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And Joe's a good friend now, and I really appreciate him as a person and what he's doing, I think, in the space. And he'd be the first to tell you, he says, I get it. Not everybody, I'm not for everybody, and I'm the same, so I get that too. But what I to the point of this is the connection points, and just like good people generally hang out with other really good people, or want to do business with other good people. And I'm a businessman at the end of the day too. But and there is such thing as good people doing good business that care about their customers, which is something I was very impressed by with what Big Tex was able to handle in the time that they were handling it. Like, that stood out to me as a business owner, going, look, this is important. Like, getting the right price point, that's important too. Having stock, that's important too. Like, having the right stuff is the right, SKU numbers is important too. But for me, like, I want to know who I'm getting my shit from.
Right.
And so when it's somebody that I trust and I really respect says, you should check these guys out, and I'm like, cool, I'm already getting my stuff from them. I already had a sense of this, right? I already had a sense of this, right? So you just confirmed what my gut, my head was telling me. So I usually go like gut, head, heart type of thing. Yeah. That's the order of that I go through. Those relationships are what stands. So going back to like the community thing, when I go downstairs, that's what ends up happening is like I get connected. Hey, I want you to meet this guy over here because, it's all rooted in that, generally speaking, because I didn't come into this with any skin in the game or any other reason than I just wanted to learn and then ultimately share what I learned. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to make any money at TTPOA. Like, I'm not here to do business, like immediately. My thing is like, I'm in the business of people. Mm-hmm. And so the getting it to your point, like, how are your kids? What's going on? I saw your wife downstairs. He was like, hey, it's good to see you again. Whatever. I don't know what you had on the table because I wasn't paying attention. I'll be honest. I don't know. I just came to see you guys. Yeah. So anyways.
I think that's probably the coolest part about what we do is like being able, all the relationships that we've made, because like we like to do business with good people, like, we can sell a lot of different stuff, but like we like selling the stuff that our friends make and that their friends are involved with. And like, I think that's one of the biggest benefits for me is like just the people that I've met, like pretty much all of my adult friends that I didn't know in high school are from this industry, like, I mean, like some of like my legit friends, we're lucky enough to be able to do business with them. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It creates a higher level of responsibility, I think, to doing a good job too. And I think, when you're connected like that, like, because you would let somebody down, or you would never treat anybody, poorly. Because you're treating people how you would want to be treated, the golden rule kind of thing. It's interesting how that's not how everybody operates, and I don't know why they wouldn't.
Yeah.
I really don't, except for, well, I do know it's one thing or two things. It's either money or ego. But yeah, again, it's just been like the connection of the humans to the humans, which it's no surprise that when you get that, generally their business practices match up, and the quality of what they do within that business usually matches up. It's been cool.
Charlie, my 6-year-old, one day she asked me and my wife were sitting there at dinner or something, and she's like, "Mommy, who's your best friend at work?" And my wife's like, "What do you mean? I don't work with my best friend. Daddy's my best friend," or something like that. She's like, "No, who's your best friend? And why don't you work with him? Because Daddy works with Mr. Ian, and that's Daddy's best friend." And I'm like, okay, all right, okay, I get it. And it's true. Like, I was friends with Ike before he ever said, "Hey, dude, I need you to do this for me," or "Hey, can you do this for me?" Or, "Hey, come to work with me because it's 2020 and shit might just get real," right?
Yeah.
And then to go look at that and to be able to keep it at the level that we have, and it's a whole nother podcast. But to go back to something that you said, were you a gun owner prior to 2020?
Yes. So the transition for me was more into becoming more of a responsible gun owner and to train. And the way that happened, I the old saying, like, I grew up around guns. People knock on that all the time, but you either did or you didn't, right? So that's not okay, well, what does that mean? What kind of a gun owner are you? For me, like, there were guns in the house. I got my first rifle when I was 10 years old. My dad, my family, the extended family, was in agriculture, and they hunted and had guns for protecting their livestock and their ranch lands and farms and things like that. So I grew up around guns, and so I always had them. And there was a short period of my life where I trained a little bit more. I'd go to the local indoor pistol range, or we'd go out and we kind of mess around with the rifles or the shotguns. But I'd done a little bit of training. Again, just walking back, we'd been shut down for a year. The city was just kind of deteriorating very, very fast at a lot of different levels, like a lot of major metropolitan areas were. The Bay Area is an interesting place in terms of the micro environments as well as the larger environment and how they cross over. And my business was right downtown, and it was in an up and coming area, or was an up and coming area, and it was deteriorating very quick. So, and I lived 2 blocks from there at the time in a townhome, which
San
was
Francisco,
awesome.
or
No, we're San Jose, so
okay.
we're just at the bottom of the bay, right? And so when people like to geographically, you have the bay, and people know about San Francisco. It's just at the tip of the peninsula and the bridge that goes across, and you start getting up into Northern California. Oakland's directly east of that on the other side of the bay, and San Jose is directly at the bottom, so it's south. So it's an interesting area, and then we're kind of surrounded by a bowl of mountains, right? And so everything is very concentrated in that bowl there. The point of that is like when crime happens and things like that, people can very easily come down or come in from other areas, do a crime, and be right back to their place. Like 50 miles north of us is San Francisco. 50 miles north of us up the other side is Oakland, and then you have all the things in between that are squeezed in between. We were seeing a lot of stuff happening. It was very frustrating and challenging for me, where there were safety concerns. I was also very frustrated and angry about what was going on, just sort of in general. But then the events with George Floyd happened in June of that year. And so I was sitting on the couch with my two daughters and Cece, and we're just watching the news happen and what was going on at City Hall, which is just 2 miles down the same street I'm on, the business is on. And I want to be really clear about this. Like, the things that were happening in San Jose didn't look nothing like what they were happening like in Minnesota or in some other major metropolitan areas. But it was my city, and there were some things happening.
Being that close, like a couple miles away from.
Couple miles. You could hear. I could look out my window and see the helicopter.
Yeah.
Helicopters circling around, keeping an eye on what was happening. And as they all start, it's a gathering of people. Weirdly, there's pallets of bricks and rocks dropped off on corners. Like, what the hell is that? Like, you're seeing stuff, but you're not really registering because it's very early in the process.
Yeah.
Some weird shit happening. Well, very quickly, when things got out of hand, when things started getting lit on fire and windows started breaking and things like that, the local law enforcement agencies handled it pretty decisively. I'm grateful to them. They took a lot of heat for the things that they did and how they did it, but they broke that shit up real fast. And what that did was it spread everybody out, and they started pushing them down the street. Well, now it's headed right towards our business. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and I'm going, shit, man, within minutes, there's going to be big crowds of people down in front of my business. Now, we had already been shut down for months. We're watching our bank accounts drain. Like, we're looking at a bankruptcy. I had employees that I could not pay. Any aid that we got from the government at that point at any level, like from like grants, whatever, was going straight back to our employees. Like, they weren't working. They hadn't, so they couldn't put food on their table, and we were struggling ourselves. So I was looking at this going, there's no way I'm going to let somebody come through and destroy whatever we have left. Big plate glass windows out in front, like we're right on the major boulevard, like we're a target, man.
Oh yeah, sit and duck.
And nobody else is down there. Everybody else had kind of abandoned their businesses too. So I packed up. The gun question is this: I packed up what I had, which was a couple of pistols, right? The little ammo I had, a little food, and a couple beers into a backpack, and I walked down to the studio and I camped out in my front lobby. So if you can picture, like, plate glass window, gym's behind me, right? I have some seating in the front area, kind of like a lounge area, and above the windows there's a TV there, so I clicked the TV on to kind of watch the news and get an idea of what was going on. I put one of the pistols on the table, on the coffee table right there in the front window, and I just sat there and watched and made eye contact with every, I'm just going to say, any dirtbag that's walking by acting a fool. I mean, there were other people out there that, let's just say, were quote unquote peaceful protesting, but there were plenty of dudes that weren't. And I just couldn't. I sat there and just wanted to be a deterrent. And it dawned on me very quickly while I was there, like, what the fuck? What am I doing here? Like, what happens if? Like, what would I do? Like, and how would I get out of here if I needed to? And by the way, I just left my family at home, which is 2 blocks from here. Like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, did I leave them with anything? I just took what I had out of the house. I mean, all these things start going through your head. I mean, it doesn't register at the time. You're kind of panicked, like you're in this situation. And anyway, that's where things changed for me, because as soon as that stuff was over, and I was down there for about 3 days, watching kind of all this stuff kind of unfold, and it never got crazy. It never got crazy. Thank God. But at the same time, I feel like I probably was a deterrent at some level, because plenty of the fellow business owners down there had, things broken, stolen, whatever. And it was weird. Like 2 days after that, now they're putting plywood up on their windows. I'm like, you guys missed the show. Yeah. Like, this has already happened. And so all this is registering for me. I'm like, I got to train. I've got to be better at this, because I am woefully underprepared. No matter what I know physically, no matter any preparations I've done at the house for earthquakes and things like that, like, it didn't set me up well for this. So I needed to dig deeper, and that's when I started to study and learn, and this journey kind of started for me. That's how the transition happened.
That's super cool. I mean, it's not super cool, but like, there were a lot of people in 2020 and 2021 that got into that bought a gun, and it's probably not been shot since.
Yep.
Or whether it was even shot. They bought the ammo, they bought the gun, or they bought 500 rounds of ammo and helped cause the ammo shortage.
Yep.
Right. And then all these people, new gun owners, and then I know everybody that owns a gun doesn't go out and train. I know that. And so there's still that small percentage that you're a part of that entered into the community and started that journey because of the catalyst of those events.
In that sense, a lot of good came out of it. And I recognize that right away, just in kind of the training that I was doing and who I was training with. Because, I mean, again, where we are, it's an underground community, kind of anyway. Again, we're aliens. I'm an alien there. So finding that tribe, right? Like, who am I going to train with? Who are these people? And then ultimately getting there and recognizing, like, maybe I'm not that weird. Like, I'm not that different. There are people out here that are really trying to be better, and learning from them. What did they try? Where did they failed? Where were they successful? What equipment were they using? What decisions were they making about the training they were doing, or the process that they were going through in order to correct the situation, the same situation I kind of found myself in, but in their own way. And in that sense, it was super valuable. And I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people benefited from it. And I mean by some in a not so good way, and others in a very good way. And like, do I wish those things hadn't happened? Yeah, I could have learned. I could have avoided, the whole business shutdown and stuff, and learned a lot of lessons. Otherwise, I would have much rather been like, look, just let me figure out how to get through this than to tell me what I can't do. Tell me what I can do. But the drive for people to get better was like a cool thing for me. I was like, God, these people are out here really learning. And that even included like law enforcement. They're recognizing, man, I got to get better, because this is getting pretty spicy out here. And so I was in front of a lot of law enforcement officers, and even firefighters and first responders and that whole community. And that's how I started to get connected, was just through I need to be better at training. And then, of course, all the other things come up with that. Like, what about the equipment? And then people are trying to sell you night vision and shit like that. Night vision? Do I need this? Like, I should learn about this because everybody's saying I need it. Like, do I need this?
It's a superpower that you can buy.
I heard this. Yeah.
It's a superpower.
Still not in that game.
Yeah.
I'm still not in that game.
That's an expensive game to be in.
I haven't gotten there yet.
So where, and you can tell me to delete this, or don't ask, or I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, no, we'll do that.
Where are you? Have you recovered from 2020?
Nope.
Y'all still...
The gym business will never. So the model that we have is about community. So we spent 10 years. I started that business in 2010, and I started in 550 square feet. It was just a room.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you do. Like, and that started previous to that. For 10 years, I worked for a very large fitness company, and I had a very lucrative job, paid me really well. And ultimately, there was a time to leave that, as they were going to be going through a bankruptcy and things were getting ugly. I'd already taken like a pay cut, like a 30% haircut, like overnight kind of thing. So I was like, okay, the dream of owning my own business was something I always wanted to do anyways. It was like, okay, I got to do this. It's now or never. And so I stepped out of that. And the point of this is I had 0 clients. Like, I started fresh from scratch, renting space as a trainer from somebody. Coming from running a major company's personal training program. And it took me 10 years, took us, CC and I, 10 years to build this business. And we expanded our little 500 square foot spot until like 1,000. And we knocked out another wall and then made it 1,800. And then there was a tried and failed studio down the street. We went in and took that over and started a group training program there and whatever. And this was a very organic, bootstrapped process, and it's relationship building and word of mouth and taking care of people. And finally, there was a time for us to like, look, if we really want to do the things that we know we can do, we're going to need more space to do it. And we're going to need more people to do it with, and we couldn't do that. We were busted the seams out of our own spot, so we moved from basically 2,000 square feet to 6,000 square feet. And this was in 17. So this was only a couple years before. We were just coming
out of that.
Dude, we were staring down the barrel of 2020 going, we fucking made it.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to be out of the red this year. It's going to be gravy from this point forward. All we have to do is not fuck this up.
So never your knees cut off.
Dude, punched in the side of the head like I've never been. And I've been hit hard several times in my life in a few different ways, literally and figuratively. Never saw that coming. And so what happened was a good deal of our folks, our members are within the tech industry somewhere. And like I can walk out the front door of our place and I could walk to Apple. I could walk to Adobe. I could throw a rock and hit eBay and Google. And so those employ thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And then there's all the other smaller businesses that support those businesses, right? Those thousands and those are our clients. Those are our members. And that little up-and-coming area that we had moved into in downtown was soaking up a lot of that because there was just nowhere else for people to go. So brand new high-rise apartment buildings going up, all the things. The Whole Foods goes in across the street. When that happens, you're in a good spot.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, the rent's going up.
Yeah, and we had gotten in just at the right time where we had negotiated. Again, coming into 2020, all the hard work, all the decisions, all the negotiations.
It's about to start
and
paying off. Yeah,
finally coming through. Well, when they shut the country down, they also shut those businesses down, and they said you don't have to come to work anymore. And all those people that were living in those apartments or whatever, like, hold on, I don't have to live, for $4,000 a month in a 1,000 square foot apartment. I can live wherever and still make the same amount of money. Later, dude, and they're gone, and they're never coming back. And so the question is like those were our members. That was 10 years of building. And we lost 85% of our clientele. They just moved away, like gone. And these were families in there, long-standing families are like, I can't live in this place anymore. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't deal with this. So there's a lot of that too. But there's a lot of those places still haven't fully gone back to work. And and like what you're seeing and a lot of people are experiencing if they're living in a major metropolitan area, all the policies, that had changed, the politics that have been influenced, and then the finance that comes along with that, or the misappropriation, in my mind, of finance has all caught up. And it's decades away from turning back around. So we've just been surviving. Like, to build those kind of relationships back, right, in the time that we needed to build them back, yeah, it's just tough to do. So we're doing our thing. Again, we've done a lot of things. We're okay, but it's not like it was, and it's not like I was making $1 million before. Like I said, we were just getting like to that point where like all the planning was. Look, we were trying to provide a service to the community, employment to people that were trying to make a career in the health and fitness industry, and at the same time earn a living, and then build something that we could maybe expand, sell. Or turn over to somebody, and it's far from that now. It's far from that now.
And so how have y'all pivoted, and what are y'all doing now? Like, what's Red Dot Fitness doing now?
Fundamentally, it's the same, right? Fundamentally, it's the same things we were doing before. It's trying to provide services to people. So, people looking from the outside, what does it look like? What is it? Like if you walk in, it doesn't look like a gym, like a 24-hour fitness room. You guys got Lifetimes down here, where it's got all the equipment for where people swipe their card, come in, work out, go home. Ours is very much a hands-on type of process. So you're either working in a small group, training environment, like maybe 8 to 10 people, like in a class, where a coach it's very organized, got their hands on you during that class, or you're in a personal training environment, right? So it's either 1 to maybe 3 people. We call that semi-private. So people are coming in all day long. And then we have the things to help with that. Nutrition coaching, we do some specific assessments. We've done some like lab testing, blood. We've done all kinds of stuff. We have that available to us. So fundamentally, it's all still the same thing. To pivot that, we've tried to go more online with this, and so we had to build out an infrastructure to be able to provide that same type of service to people, online, which is where everybody went. Every gym owner did that.
Yeah.
At that time.
You had to. I mean, like, what other option do you have?
You don't.
You don't.
So that's where, and there's so much evolution in that business because it was so concentrated, everybody was doing that. So at the same time, it got very saturated. So how you do that is very different. And so for us, like, you can either try to appeal to the masses, which is what most other people are trying to do, and some people are really doing that. And unfortunately, the masses generally are going to gravitate towards the least expensive thing on the menu. Well, we were the highest ticket item on the menu in our area, and we knew that, but we also knew like that we were over providing. Based on what we were priced at, and people got that, and they were also paying for it. But to try to give that kind of value digitally, that was really tough. So you kind of start this process of, well, I need to give out a lot of free information to get people to gain trust and understand what we do is different. And, fundamentally looks the same. It's a gym, dude. Like, people lift weights, they get sweaty, whatever else. It's how we help people that we had to get out there. Going back to the podcast, that's what the podcast was about. So that was part of the pivot. Then the other thing was just trying to connect with people that were like-minded, so that because everybody was struggling. So I was trying to connect with other gyms, other, business owners in that industry, if you will, to try to tell the story so that we could leverage one another in bringing the message to the people, so we could drive more attention to things. So that's really how it's been. The podcast has been sort of an add-on to that. Like, the podcast, or the gym sponsors all the podcasts. So we talk about fitness and health. We talk about our programs, and we pitch the programs there, when we can, without trying to kill people with selling it to them all the time.
Facts.
Just like you guys do.
Yeah.
It's like, let's have a cool conversation. If you like what you heard and you like us, maybe you want to buy our products. Kind of
From?
from Red Dot Fitness. Yeah.
.com?
Yeah. No, you go to rdftrainonline.com. So
go.
it's Red Dot Fitness, but rdftrainonline.com.
Cool. There's that plug.
There's that plug. That's a shameless plug.
Yeah. But, we were talking last night downstairs, and if you're listening, the gentleman who commented on our Facebook group is going to know who he is. But he's talking about, hey, I've listened to, I listened to you 6 months. I've listened to every episode. I listened to X episode 6 times, and I just placed my first order from y'all, and I got stickers, and I got a Constitution, and it really did come as fast as y'all talk about online. I love you guys. And I'm like, cool. But, like, so 6 months, that's,
Yep.
36 episodes or whatever it is, right? Like, that's a long process of, building that trust with somebody. But, I really hope we've got you as a customer for life now, because we put the time in. But it's not an hour-long commercial. We talk about the stuff, but it's about the relationship and the person behind it.
Yeah, I think what you get there, too, is if you do what you said, like, fundamentally, like, you're not going to piss anybody off by talking about your business. Like, they're going to expect you to do that. And I think people want to be sold, at some level. Like, most people want to be sold. They just don't want to be sold every day, all day, like on this stuff, right? So tell me what the special is. Tell me what the deal is. Tell me how to get the discount code or whatever. I don't mind you doing that. Just don't do it 18 times in the podcast, or have an hour podcast where 15 minutes of it is dropping those ads. But yeah, it's about the people. That building that thing takes a long time. It's interesting what you're talking about. It took 6 months to even get that kind of feedback. That's one of the challenging things about the podcast and running an online business, is getting that feedback. I've been in the people business where I have those very intimate conversations, like, where people will tell you things as a personal trainer. You meet with them 2 times a week. You're dealing with their health issues, their kid issues, their marital issues, or all that stuff. Really easy to kind of get a gauge on where your client is, what they're getting, what they're not getting, and also very easy to just get immediate feedback. Hey, how'd that go for you? What am I doing well? How can I help you more? That kind of stuff. But in the digital space,
totally different.
It's like, I'll say it's very hard. Some people you just know how to do it right. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard. So unless somebody says that directly to you, or, again, like, you get like that comment, like in an email or something like that, it's really hard to know how much you reach people and what they get from it.
Ike, how many years did you work at another job before you went full-time big? Well, you were already full-time Big Tex, but when you went all in, like,
I think I spent 10 years in my previous career.
Yeah, and then,
like, in that role,
I was already hired by you, working for you. I don't know if I was full-time yet. I might have just transitioned to full-time when you made the transition.
Yeah.
I mean, you already had 5 full-time employees working for you.
January of 21 when I walked away.
Yeah.
From my real job.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so, like, I mean, it's
a journey.
That's just building the business, not building a relationship online with your customers. And that does, if you're listening out there and you're the competition, that's maybe why they order from us and not you, is because they have that relationship. And it's something that we work very hard to maintain and go places where,
Most people won't.
Or
Can't.
it's not going. Are we going to get new customers from TTPOA? Yes.
How do you measure that?
Yeah. How do you measure it? Symposium every year. We go there. Everybody knows who we are. There's not a person at Symposium that doesn't know who Big Tex is. But we go there to see that dude we see every year at Symposium. And we're like, hey, dude, what's up? Nice to see you.
So important. Keeping your finger on the pulse, but also respecting the customer where the customer is. I mean, meeting and respecting them where they are. Like, that human touch goes so far. Again, just going back to the fitness business, like I've worked in major big box situations. When I left the last company, we had 450 of them, like across the country, and actually globally there was in other country. I've had as many as 150 clubs I've been directly responsible for, right? And the most impact I ever made was going out to those clubs, being on the ground, and that's what I like doing the best. Even if I was kind of a fixer, like, this shit's fucked up, man, you got to go fix it. Okay, send me in there. And it was really, where does that start? It doesn't start by peeling back all the numbers in the books and, like your sales process is messed up or whatever. It's like understanding who the people are and how they work. You will get way more mileage out of that, and you'll get a customer for life. And to your point, like that one person it took you 6 months to get, like in the digital space or in any sales thing, any product you're trying to sell, you'll hear people that in the business, you'll hear like, what's the customer lifetime value, right? The CLV on everything. Look, there's a way to calculate that, but you have to get it started first to ever even be able to get next to collecting those metrics to understand. And it's going to have to start with building an audience of people that trust you and really treat them really well, to then slowly kind of organically expand it. I mean, you could do it through different digital stuff, paying for ads or paying for follows or whatever else, but I think people have learned that lesson. I think the people that end up making it in the long term, we would never be here. Red Dot Fitness would be closed if we hadn't done that from the get-go. We were just able to layer some things on, to help us keep going. Most of my gym owner friends they're gone. They're out of business. They're working some other job in some other place right now, working for somebody else because they couldn't make it through. I'm not saying it's because they were running a poor business. I'm just saying I probably had a head start on them with regard to building those relationships to be able to go back to everything from a gym member to another business owner I could call to find out, hey, how are you doing this? How are you creating this, this success, all that kind of stuff. So it's I don't know, maybe getting off topic here, but
hey, off topic is on topic.
So
that's what we're all about.
but yeah, getting those people, getting that customer, taking it 6 months. You just talked about, it takes a long time to build that relationship, and it isn't about like, there's things that go into that, but that's how I found you guys. Like, again, like, and when I saw the podcast come out, I go, that is smart. That is smart, because most people wouldn't think like that. It's like, how do I get another ad out there that's going to drive this much versus putting in work, starting with GoPros and iPhones and stuff like that, and testing new things, which is a lot of work. I know how much work goes into this. So, but huge payoffs. So I love what you guys have done.
Thank you. Yeah. And so tell everybody that's listening where they can find your podcast and where they can find out more information about you.
Yeah, we're on the basic stuff. So the podcast is Iron Sights Podcast. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, and of course on YouTube. It's just Iron Sights Podcast on YouTube. However you consume it, which I find it interesting. There's a crowd that listens to it, and there's a crowd that likes to watch it. We were talking about that last night. So you'll find us on both places there, or on all those spots there. The gym is Red Dot Fitness. It's reddotfitness.net is the main site, but if you go to rdftrainonline.com, you'll learn all about the things that we do, both kind of in-house and in-person, and then online. There's a bunch of stuff there. That's the best place to go get us. And we're also on Instagram, red_dot_fitness on Instagram.
And then this is a few weeks out, but like I remember the podcast I sent out on an email. So Ruben Alvarez,
Ruben's
he's going to be at our range on tomorrow.
Yeah,
he's teaching a class this weekend.
Doing the combatives class.
Yeah, he's doing it. It's the second one, but I shared his interview via email when we posted it up. That way I'll be like, okay, here's the content, here's the dude.
Ruben's amazing.
Here you go. Yeah,
he's one of the hardest working dudes in the business. I don't know how he's doing it. He's full-time SWAT, right? He's been doing the firearms instruction through Paradox training forever, his company Paradox. He's been working with Craig and ShivWorks for literally every weekend. When he's not on the job, he's doing something. And he's still managing to put out the content. He's still managing to stay positive. He's such a good human. I haven't, because he lives in Florida and logistically we're so far away. Yeah. I haven't been able to train with him yet. There was a chance I might have been able to get in there over SHOT Show. He was in Vegas teaching a class on that Saturday, but I couldn't get in until Sunday, so I wasn't able to. So I'm jealous you guys are gonna get to hang out with Ruben.
Yeah. I hope to have him on the show if we can get him in on Monday. We might have to do a show on Sunday if you're available. But like we've crossed paths, and it's every time he's there, it's like. He was there for Black Friday. Right? Yeah. He was there for Thanksgiving weekend, and I was like, "Dude, I can't.
It's not
You're not seeing me. Why? Well, I'm fixing to work like 22 hours that day.
Yeah.
You know, I'm working all day, all night that time, and then now he's coming. He's like, "What time would you be back from TTPOA?" I'm like, "Man, we're just going cross paths again." So.
Yeah, it's interesting, like the podcast thing. So you talk about Ruben and you putting out the stuff on him, which I really appreciate, but. One of the podcasts that was very influential for me was the one you guys did with Kyle Defoor. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I was able to, like, I reached out to Kyle. I was like, this guy, there's so much this guy has to offer to this. It's one of my favorite episodes. And through just a weird kind of events in the universe, kind of moon, sun, and stars lining up, we were able to connect out in Virginia when I was out there last. But I like hearing him and you guys interviewing him, I was like, dudes can get in front of Kyle Defoor for a podcast. I had no idea like he would even do that for folks, and such a giving dude. Like I was really shocked, like because he's from kind of the old school and the old YouTube videos and whatever else. And he's fairly quiet on Instagram. He kind of does his thing because I feel like I think he feels like he has to do it. Probably does. Yeah. But like you guys, that was a huge inspiration for me to finally make that happen.
I can't even remember if Chris had his contact, and I got his contact info from Chris because one of our ex-employees he'd trained with him enough to be like, contact, Mm-hmm. No, I emailed him. I got on his email. Okay. I went and got on his website and just emailed you.
Oh, really?
Emailed him. I said, hey, I took your class at X next date. I know you're going to be here. Come by and do the podcast. Give me a call. And he's just like, all right, dude.
Yeah, it's cool.
So I think that's the coolest part. The coolest part about this is just at the end of the day, like, and this is what I realized when I started the journey in the podcast was these are just dudes. Yeah. Like we're all just dudes. We're all trying to do stuff. And if you just reach out and you're just a dude, just reach out and try to have a conversation with somebody like we've been having today. You'd be really surprised what you find out. Don't build anybody up into something that they aren't, or whatever, because you see in this way on social media or whatever. But I really encourage people, if I've learned anything, it's that there really is no reason why you shouldn't be able to reach out to somebody. Like you see a dude, you have a question for him, put together a well-formulated question. But oftentimes, like what I learned works really well in creating these relationships, and you mentioned it, was just letting people know that you appreciate them. Yeah. Like for no other reason than that. Don't do anything with expectation. Like you're gonna have this long conversation with them after telling them thank you. But like if somebody gives you a follow, like it's like, hey, dude, I love you guys. Like that's awesome. I just got followed by. Or, I just got a comment from the Big Tex guys. That meant a lot to me. It's like, dude, this is awesome. Yep. And so I just let them know, I think that's awesome. Thank you. You'd be surprised how far that goes with people versus like, what shoes are those that you're wearing in the, on the range on that day or whatever. Like, what gun should I buy for CQB? Yeah. Like, think about that. So for anybody, maybe, people take a listen to that. I am very open. So with people, and I encourage people, maybe this is the last plug I can put in. If people have questions or whatever, like it's about podcasting or the people that I've met or, making a connection, you can reach out to me. I'm going to hit you back. It might take me a while sometimes to get through there, but just like you guys, super open to combos. Like if you hit me, I'm going to return your message. So,
well, thanks, dude. Thanks for returning the message.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for hitting me up last night. I'm stoked to be here. This is such a cool treat.
I looked at you at the bar. I was like, hey, and you were on your
being a nerd at the
Mac,
bar,
right? You're just working away. I was like, you editing a podcast and you're like,
which is weird because I was head down and I turned around and I didn't recognize him at first. I was like, dude, what? Like I know this dude. But you trimmed the beard or you had a hat on or something.
Huge trim. It took like 2.5 inches.
Yeah, that's what it was because I only saw you a couple months back, whatever that was in January. So yeah, thanks for stopping me. Thanks for having me up, guys.
No, thrilled to have you on.
Yeah,
man.
this has been a ton of fun, and I mean, we have to return the favor sometime and get you guys on and talk about the business and talk about how you're doing it and your stories. I know a little bit about it because I talked to Ike end of last year, kind of went through that a little bit, but so impressed by how this company has come together and what it's doing given the totality of all the things that are going on in the industry and how you guys continue to do it. And I'm not surprised, but I'm still really impressed. So anyways, love to have you guys on and talk through your story.
Yeah.
For sure.
Let's do it.
Thank you. And for those of you watching, listening, downloading, whatever you're doing, or if you made it here, you've listened, or watched, or anyway. Thank you. We appreciate it. Check out Scott's podcast. Check out Red Dot Fitness. And let us know if you got any questions in the comments. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you around.